I felt like crying and, never logging into Upwork again. I had no reviews, no testimonials, and no experience on Upwork, and I was still able to land my first client within the first 13 days. And in this video, I want to tell you about how that happened, the story, and how I ended up losing the client at the end and getting completely wrecked. And it ended up destroying my Upwork profile for a long time until I made this little change. So this video, I don't really want to edit too much. I just want to actually tell you the story, because a lot of people may watch my channel and see the results that I get for my students and see the results that I've got for myself and not realize that, like, I'm literally a normal person. I was in the exact same position that many freelancers are. And something like 80% of freelancers quit and go back to the 9 to 5 job. So I get it, you know what I mean? And the way I got my first client, if I told you the story, is pretty funny. So I was working at Holland and Barrett. I had no money, and I was, to be honest, completely addicted to smoking weed and just being a full-blown degenerate at that point in my life. And I kind of wasn't happy. I was pretty broke. Like, I didn't want to tell my parents and ask them for money because they also didn't have a lot of money. But there was actually a 6-month period where I couldn't even afford the contact lenses. So I just went without wearing glasses, and I just was basically blind for like 6 months, or, partially, bad vision for 6 months working at Holland and Barrett. It's not a job that you need, much vision for. You just stocking shelves, vitamin D, mass gainer, whatever, right? There you go. Some old lady comes in, here's whey protein, right? But yeah, like, I was working at Holland and Barrett, and I really wanted to get out of my situation. And, I tried, shoe selling. I tried drop shipping. I even tried like making music and being a rapper, because my mom is an opera singer. But I just didn't have that gene either. So I was like a, black sheep of the family. And I couldn't figure it out. Like, I tried so many businesses that didn't work out. And to be honest, at that point, I felt pretty depressed and felt like this wasn't possible. I felt like my life was destined to be there. And even before then, I was working in a Mexican restaurant. And, like, I remember saying to a guy there that, like, I could literally work in this job for the rest of my life, bang, 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 make the burrito, give it to the customer. I kind of enjoyed it, to be honest. I had great food. It was, a very low paying job, like £6-7, pound an hour. And yeah, like, but I felt like I had no potential, so I feel it. Like, now I look at myself and I have achieved things in my life that I'm happy with. But back then, I never would have thought I'd get to this point. But anyway, to get to the point of the whole video, this is how I ended up landing my first client. So I was working at Holland and Barrett, and then I ended up finding Upwork, right? So I first started sending out my first few proposals. And to be honest, I sent 10 a day consistently for about 13, 14 days. And that's when I first got my first message. And the lady who I got a message off, I'm not going to say her name, but let's just call her Sandy. That's not her name, right? It's kind of sounds like that, but let's just call her Sandy. And Sandy was wanting me to do social media management work. Now, granted, at this time, I literally didn't know anything about social media management. As a matter of fact, when I ended up closing her for a very small amount of money, might I add, I remember immediately going to Google and being like, how to do social media management. And I always tell my students this because I think it's funny. Like, people always want to be perfect and think they need to know everything before starting, when I literally knew nothing and I just did whatever I could to get a client. And yeah, I remember I was in the gym with my friend Corey, and I got the notification on my phone, and it was like, hey, like, can we jump on a call? And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I was like, I can't right now. I was trying to be bougie. Like, I can't right now, maybe later. Like, here's my Calendly, right? So we booked in a call, and she wanted 9 posts a day on 3 different social media platforms each. So 9 plus 9 plus 9, what's that, 27 or whatever, a day. So 27 posts a day, right? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And if you know anything about like making content, that's ridiculous, right? Now, what's her budget for that? A few $1,000s, obviously. It's 27 posts a day. No, $180, right? $180 for that first client. $180 for that client, right? And yeah, like, Yeah, I accepted it. I was so happy. I remember running downstairs because I was still living with my parents at that point. I remember running downstairs and like shouting, like, "Oh my God, I just made money!" Like I just made money. And I had this picture, but I can't find it anywhere. And I'm so frustrated. Where it was me like this with the it said that, $180 and I was losing 20% of it to Upwork, my ad, right? I was like this. Um, that was crazy. But I was so blown away by the idea that I could make money online from my bedroom in my parents' house, right? That blew my mind. But yeah, I ended up taking on the client. I ended up going on Google and was like, okay, social media management, like how to figure this out. I learned about Canva, right? I learned about sendable.com and Buffer, like for scheduling posts. And what's so funny is right now, if you ask me to do that same work, it might take me a few hours. That shit was taking me all day. And the amount of stress that I had doing those posts and just working for a client was like unbelievable. Like I literally don't think I've ever been more stressed in my entire life with that first client than I have in the rest of my entire life. Like it was so stressful and everything would take me so long to do. Like every post would take me like an hour to do. So I was so far behind. And, one thing led to another and I ended up losing that client. I ended up getting completely wrecked. And it actually completely destroyed my Upwork profile for that $180. She ended up not even paying me. Ended up having to give her a partial refund, I believe. It was quite a long time ago, but I believe it was partial refund. And yeah, like I didn't realize until like a few years later that bad review destroyed my profile for like a year to come. That's why it took me so long to get top rated. So when I sit here and I make YouTube content about freelancing and Upwork, trust me, I've went through everything that you're probably going through right now, everything that you've been through. And that's why I can give you my opinion on it. And that's why I can be honest with you and say, look, like I know what it feels like to get a client for $180, then absolutely violate you and take advantage of you and then destroy you with a bad review on your profile so that you kind of forced to refund them. And, and not even knowing that and making the mistake of just leaving it on there and then, struggling to get clients after that. It took me so long. It literally took me so like years to get top rated, years to make a lot of money online. And I've just been through the ringer. I've seen so much bullshit on Upwork. I've seen it when it was really cheap to send proposals. I've seen it when it was really expensive. I've seen all the changes that Upwork have made. I've almost been banned from Upwork. And then I've like argued with them on support when I didn't do anything. I've really seen it all. And, ultimately that's the story of how I got my first client. But, deep down, the reason I'm making this YouTube channel and the reason I make these videos is because I want to help you if you're in the position that you're in. You don't have to pay me any money, but I just want you to know that like I've been there, I get it, and I've got you. Like you can do this too. This is possible. Yes, it takes some effort. Yes, it's, I just made a video on the laziest way to make money in 2025 October. But realistically speaking, it does take some effort to make this work. But once you get this working, it's beautiful. You can live in Thailand, you can have a great life, and you can have the financial freedom and the time freedom and the location freedom that you want. And Upwork and freelancing is a really good avenue for that. And to be honest, there's not a lot of businesses that compare to it. So even though I got wrecked for my first client, overall, I think it was all worth it in the grand scheme of things. And now I look back on those days humbly and in a funny way. I laugh at that experience. Whereas at the time, I felt like crying and, never logging into Upwork again. So if you had something similar to you happen, I'd love to know about it. I'd love to hear about the first time that you got your first client or what it was like. Maybe it was perfect for you and you were just like a virtuoso, it was easy. I don't think many of us go through that. But yeah, hope that makes sense. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one. Just wanted to give you a little candid video. I hope you enjoy it.